They say time heals all wounds, but some words cut so deep that they echo in your heart for years. Today, as I sit in my small kitchen, watching the steam rise from my teacup, I want to share a story that changed everything between my son and me. It's a story about pride, pain, and the unexpected ways life teaches us lessons we never saw coming. My name is Rukhsana, and at 67 I've lived through more storms than I care to count. But the storm I'm about to tell you about didn't come from the sky. It came from the mouth of my own child, the boy I raised with these very hands. Akram was my only son, born after 3 daughters. In our household, like many traditional families, his arrival was celebrated as if the heavens themselves had opened up and blessed us. My husband Gulam used to say, "Rukhsana, this boy will be our strength in old age." How naive we were to think we could predict the future. I raised Akram with all the love and sacrifice a mother's heart could hold. When his father passed away suddenly from a heart attack when Akram was only 15, I took on double duty. Worked as a seamstress, taking in clothes from the neighborhood women, my fingers pricking countless times on needles, my back aching from hunching over fabric for hours. Every stitch I sewed was for him. Every rupee I earned went toward his education. "Beta," I would tell him as I served him his favorite halwa puri on Sundays. "Education is the only inheritance I can give you. Make something of yourself." And Akram did make something of himself. He graduated with a business degree, found a good job at a textile company, and married Shabana, a lovely girl from a respectable family. They moved into a beautiful house in Defense, complete with marble floors and a garden that Shabana tended with the same care I once gave to my small potted plants. For the first few years of their marriage, I lived in my old neighborhood, managing, on my small pension and the occasional help from my daughters. I was content, truly. I had raised a successful son, and that was reward enough for a lifetime of sacrifices. But as I aged, simple tasks became mountains to climb. My arthritis made it difficult to cook elaborate meals. My eyesight wasn't what it used to be, making my sewing work nearly impossible. The stairs to my second-floor apartment felt like climbing Everest some days. When I turned 65, my daughter Nasreen suggested I move in with Akram. "Amma," she said, "you've given your whole life for him. Now it's his turn to care for you." I was hesitant. I valued my independence, but the truth was, I was struggling. So I approached Akram with the idea. His response still haunts me. "Amma, I have my own family now, my own responsibilities. Shabana is pregnant with our second child, and we need space. Besides, you've managed on your own for this long." I nodded, understanding but hurt. I didn't push the matter. But 6 months later, when I fell in my bathroom and couldn't get up for hours until my neighbor found me, the conversation came up again. This time, it was Shabana who suggested it. "Maybe Amma should come stay with us for a while," she said to Akram when they visited me in the hospital. That's when he said the words that shattered something inside me. "Look, I love you, Amma, but I can't have you becoming a burden on our household. We have young children to think about, careers to focus on. You understand, don't you?" A burden. The word hit me like a physical blow. I, who had sacrificed sleep to nurse him through countless fevers, who had sold my gold bangles to pay for his university books, who had gone without meals to ensure he never felt hungry, I was now a burden. I smiled weakly and nodded. "Of course, Beta, I understand." But understanding and accepting are 2 different things. I returned to my apartment, and something in me hardened. If I was destined to be independent, then independent I would be. I stopped asking for help, stopped expecting visits, stopped hoping for things to change. If you're finding this story resonates with your own experiences or those of someone you know, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Stories like these need to be heard and shared. Months turned into years. Akram would visit occasionally, always with an air of duty rather than love. He would sit in my small living room, checking his phone, making polite conversation about the weather or my health, then leave with a promise to visit more often, that we both knew was empty. During this time, I discovered something unexpected about myself. Stripped of the role of devoted mother, I began to rediscover who Rukhsana was. I joined a community center where elderly women gathered to share stories and support each other. I learned that I wasn't alone in my experience. Many of us had children who saw us as obligations rather than blessings. I also began volunteering at a local orphanage. These children, who had no families at all, welcomed me with an enthusiasm my own son had never shown. They called me Nana Amma and would rush to hug me whenever I arrived. Their joy was pure, uncomplicated by expectations or burdens. For the first time in years, I felt useful, not as someone's mother or someone's responsibility, but as myself. Meanwhile, Akram's life continued on its seemingly perfect trajectory. He received promotions at work, bought a bigger house, and his family grew. From what I heard through my daughters, who maintained better relationships with him than I did, everything was going wonderfully. But life, as I've learned, has a way of humbling us when we least expect it. The call came on a rainy Tuesday evening in October. It was Shabana, and she was crying. "Amma, I don't know who else to call. Akram. He's made some terrible business decisions. We're going to lose everything." Through her sobs, the story came out. Akram had been convinced by a friend to invest heavily in a startup company. Not just his savings, but he had taken loans against their house, borrowed from his Provident Fund, even used credit cards to gather more capital. The company had promised massive returns within 6 months. Instead, it had vanished overnight. The friend who had convinced him was nowhere to be found. The startup was revealed to be an elaborate fraud scheme. Akram wasn't just broke. He was drowning in debt that would take years to pay off. "The bank is threatening to take our house," Shabana continued. "Akram hasn't eaten properly in days. He just sits in his room staring at the walls. The children keep asking why Papa looks so sad all the time." My first instinct was to rush to them immediately, but I stopped myself. The woman who would have dropped everything to rescue her son was gone. In her place was someone who had learned to think before acting, to consider consequences, to value herself. "What does Akram want me to do?" I asked quietly. He's too proud to ask. But Amma, he needs help. Not just financial help, but he needs his mother." I told Shabana I would think about it and call her back. That night, I sat in my small kitchen, the same kitchen where I now sit telling you this story, and I thought about choices. About the boy who had called me a burden, and the man who now found himself burdened by circumstances beyond his control. The children, my grandchildren, began to know me as more than just the old woman who visited occasionally. I became their friend, their storyteller, their confidant for small secrets and big dreams. 6 months after that dinner in my apartment, as Akram's family was finally getting back on their feet financially, he said something that surprised me. "Amma, I want you to move in with us." My first instinct was to say no. I had grown to love my independence, my small apartment, my self-directed life. "Not because you're a burden," he continued quickly, "and not because I owe you something, but because you're my mother, and I want my children to grow up knowing their grandmother. I want Shabana to have your wisdom and support. And selfishly, I want the chance to learn from you while I still can." I studied his face carefully. This wasn't the desperate man who had needed rescue 6 months earlier. This was a man who had learned humility, who had discovered that needing someone doesn't make you weak, and that being needed doesn't make the other person a burden. "Let me think about it," I said. If this story has touched your heart or reminded you of your own family relationships, please join our community by subscribing. Your engagement helps us continue sharing these important stories. That was 2 years ago. I did eventually move in with Akram's family, but on my own terms. I maintain my own space within their home, continue my volunteer work, and come and go as I please. I'm not a guest in their house, nor am I a burden they've taken on. I'm a contributing member of the family. The transformation in our relationships has been remarkable. Akram has become not just a better son, but a better father and husband. He learned that when you take care of the people who matter to you, really take care of them, with respect and love rather than duty and resentment, everyone benefits. Shabana tells me regularly how grateful she is for my presence in their home. Not because I help with cooking and childcare, though I do both happily, but because I bring a sense of stability and wisdom that comes only with having lived through many of life's storms. My grandchildren, now aged 8 and 10, rush to greet me every day when they come home from school. They share their problems with me, ask for my advice on everything from friendship troubles to homework difficulties. They will grow up knowing that elderly people aren't burdens to be managed, but treasures to be valued. But perhaps the most important change has been in me. I learned that standing up for yourself doesn't mean rejecting love when it's offered genuinely. I learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting hurt, but about choosing to build something better from the ruins of what was broken. I learned that sometimes the people we love most need to lose us a little bit in order to truly find us. Today, when I look at my son, really look at him, I see a man who has grown through hardship into someone I'm genuinely proud to call my child. Not because of his success or failures, but because of his capacity to learn, to change, to become better than he was. The word burden never comes up in our conversations anymore. Instead, we talk about partnership, about family, about the ways we can support each other through whatever life brings next. Because life will bring more challenges. This I know from experience. Akram's business is doing well now, but businesses can fail again. Health problems will come with age for all of us. Financial ups and downs are part of life's natural rhythm. But I'm not afraid of these future challenges anymore, because I've learned that when families face difficulties together, with respect and genuine care for each other, those difficulties become opportunities for growth rather than sources of resentment. I've also learned that it's never too late to change the story you're living. At 67, I discovered parts of myself I never knew existed. I found my voice, my strength, my ability to set boundaries and demand respect. These discoveries didn't make me less loving. They made me more capable of loving healthily. 2. The women my age who might be listening to this story, I want you to know that your value doesn't diminish with your years. You are not burdens to be managed or problems to be solved. You are repositories of wisdom, sources of love, and valuable contributors to your families and communities. Don't accept treatment that diminishes your worth. Don't make yourself smaller to make others comfortable. Stand up for yourself, not with anger or bitterness, but with the quiet strength that comes from knowing who you are and what you deserve. To the younger people who might be listening, I want you to remember that the elderly people in your life won't be there forever. The conversations you're avoiding, the visits you're postponing, the respect you're withholding, these choices create permanent regrets. Your parents and grandparents aren't perfect. We've made mistakes, said things we shouldn't have, failed, in ways both small and large. But we've also loved you, sacrificed for you, and learned lessons that could benefit you if you're willing to listen. Don't wait until crisis forces you to see us clearly. Don't let pride or busy schedules or modern life's endless distractions keep you from building real relationships with the people who shaped your world. As I finish this story, sitting in the same kitchen where it began, I'm filled not with sadness for the years that were difficult, but with gratitude for the growth that came from those difficulties. Akram and I have built something new together, a relationship based on mutual respect rather than one-sided obligation. It's taken 67 years of my life and 38 years of his, but we finally understand how to be family to each other. Sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow from the rockiest soil. Sometimes the strongest relationships are forged in the fire of honest conflict and genuine forgiveness. Sometimes being called a burden is exactly what you need to discover that you are, in fact, a blessing.